Without us even thinking about it, our bodies are reacting to keep us safe from what we perceive to be a risk, where there is a threat. Those automatic defenses are going to kick in, and we are going to try and find a way to keep ourselves safe. Survival. You will have heard a lot about automatic defense mechanisms. Flight, fight, freeze. You may have heard of fawning. You may have heard of feigned death.
So I think a lot of people are familiar with what a fight or flight response is. Oftentimes it's our natural evolutionary way of responding to stressful situations or crises. Oftentimes it can come with a rush of energy or adrenaline, either to deal with the situation or escape the situation. It's also something that can be triggered by trauma. So even if an individual isn't in a currently dangerous situation, if someone has experienced trauma, there might be situations that can still elicit a fight or flight response, even if there isn't necessarily a crisis or danger happening.
In our brains, everyone has a way of checking for safety and risk. Trauma influences our bodies by turning the volume up on our vigilance, right? We're more careful, we're scanning our environment. When we've had trauma experiences, we are more afraid that more bad things could happen. And so our bodies and our minds are busy scanning to see, where is the threat? Where is the threat?
If your threat detection system is in overdrive, you're not only going to react to the things that remind you of your trauma, it's going to kind of pick up on anything that could be perceived as a threat. In those moments when your threat detection system is in overdrive, everything is a potential threat. You won't just be thinking about the things that are attached to your trauma. It's kind of like everything around you becomes a potential threat.
When we have a small trauma, the triggers may only be related and very directly trackable to the trauma experience. But for folks where there are multiple traumas or trauma over a long period of time, in general, it changes their perception of the world. The world just gets scarier. And that part of us that is vigilantly scanning for threat is very, very powerful. But our systems are primed. Our systems have learned there is a lot of risk in this world. And so learning how to teach our bodies to calm, learning how to teach our minds to calm, so that the system that perceives threat gets to turn its volume down, can really make a big difference. For anybody who is interested in psychology and psychotherapy, you have probably heard about top-down measures and bottom-up measures. Interventions that help us get stable, interventions that help us create a sense of safety in the world. Top-down measures are things that help look at our behaviors and our thoughts and evaluate how effective those are, how accurate those are.
A top-down approach is if there are ruminating thoughts that you're having that are worrisome and that are causing your body to go into fight or flight, into your survival mode system, right? Then it's important to be able to kind of target the thoughts. Top-down emotion regulation type exercises, things like CBT, where you pick apart you challenge the thoughts that you're having. It's mindfulness, right? Like really just tuning in to where you are and what's going on for you in the moment.
So for example, a top-down emotion regulation exercise might be noticing we are reacting very largely to a situation that we think maybe it doesn't need such a big reaction. Maybe I am really angry that my partner didn't pick up the thing I needed from the grocery store. And I think, I am really inflamed in my anger here. A top-down processing would look like saying to ourselves, what would be reasonable right now? Figure out what I need to do so that I'm not caught in that place of overwhelm.
Ways of adjusting the fight or flight response from a top-down perspective would be therapy, like cognitive processing, mindfulness, or examining and changing some of the beliefs around situations or triggers that might allow us to start to see those situations as more neutral or benign again, and so they don't trigger the typical fight or flight response.
Bottom-up measures work with the body. Polyvagal and somatic interventions use the body both for information and for self-soothing. There are so many things we can do to help calm from the bottom up, from our bodies. And that way, it changes a sense of like, we're just going down the river of overwhelm to feeling like we have a life buoy and we can direct ourselves out of the water. We can find a way to give ourselves something that calms our body and helps bring that calm up into our minds.
Bottom-up emotion regulating exercises are things like somatics, like yoga, stuff that moves your body, that brings attention to your physical self and gets you out of your head.
It could be very gently putting some pressure, hand on your heart, and just breathing in through your nose and a nice long exhalation out through your nose. It could look like pushing your feet down. You're sitting and you push your feet down into the ground and you hold. Make sure you're still breathing. That calming breath, anything that helps us settle in our body, will make a difference bottom up. It could be self-soothing very gently. So some people like a soft touch. So skin-on-skin contact will go a long way. Getting an extended hug, 20 seconds from somebody you like, can help calm your system. You can do alternative tapping. So this is going to be a left, right tapping.
You'll notice if you're restoring the balance in your threat detection system, you'll notice things like you breathe deeper, your heart rate slows down a little bit, and then you also you feel connected to other people. You're going to want to be with other people, go towards other people. You can think, you can problem solve better. You can think a little bit more creatively when the executive functioning of your brain has come back online. You can't talk your body out of feeling something, right? Like it needs to be tactile, it needs breathing, it needs that kind of addressing what's happening in your body. So intellectually, it doesn't really matter why this thing is happening in your body. It's just important to be able to know to bring your body back to a sense of safety.
It reminds us we do have some agency here. We are not just victims, really, to the reaction in our body or what our brain is doing and telling us. We have ways we can get ourselves out of this intense place.
I think it's important to practice emotion regulation strategies regularly. That kind of healing, it's not linear, right? It's kind of up and down, and then sometimes you fall back. So yeah, I don't think you ever get to a place necessarily where you never have to worry about needing to think about regulating your emotions. I think it very much has a lot to do with the state that your nervous system is in, and you might often have to think about how you regulate your emotions. You might have to consciously do the practices.
When folks are coming to see me for therapy and they're new and they're caught in trauma reaction, PTSD, or high levels of anxiety or depression, and they want relief pretty quickly, understandably. And we introduce some self-regulation exercises that can help calm the body, that can help take us out of an overwhelmed state. I encourage people to invest a bit of time every day, and it doesn't have to be much. It can be 1 minute, it can be 5 minutes, it can be 10 minutes, but every day for 2 weeks, and we see what's different. One of the remarkable things is that our bodies can learn new patterns. When we're in PTSD, it's like the switch is flicked on and it's very hard for our bodies to remember how to get out of overwhelm. But with consistency in intervention, that switch can be turned off and folks can see some relief, moments of relief within a couple of weeks. I will reiterate, it is important to stay consistent in doing those interventions day to day, because our bodies respond most effectively when we are consistent. We don't need a big intervention. We need a whole bunch of small interventions back to back, day to day. And that in the long run is actually much more effective. So with a therapist who's trauma-informed, they are going to help you figure out what works best for you. And those skills you can take out into your day-to-day life. You learn how to do those on your own, so that in between therapy sessions, you have skills and capacity to help calm your system.
Redbird Therapy.